Well, all right, everyone. How's it going? John Selway here with a new concept, a new stream, a new season of 343 Labs TV, or just 343 TV. And yeah, we're doing it on Saturdays now, right? Tuesday is now someone else's domain. No more Techno, no more Taco Tuesdays. Now we've got Selway's Techno Saturdays. And yeah, it's an opportunity for me to share a little bit about things that I'm doing, things I'm interested in, things we're doing at 343 Labs, and mostly focusing on techno genre-wise, but of course branching out into other directions that are related. I think some of you probably know I do a lot of electro and other things like that, and lots of different styles. So, oops, there went my phone. Anyway, we've got a couple of regulars here in the chat. Welcome back, Andrew Duke, TWD Industries, and we have a very special guest in the chat today, Christian Smith, good old friend and collaborator of mine. Glad to see you here in the chat. And yeah, so, as I mentioned, this is, we're in our new sort of season, our new round of episodes for 343 TV. And I had to sort of think about what I'm going to do, every 4 episodes or so. I'm going to try to keep it fairly consistent with, sort of a general content for each episode. Today is going to be, like the first of the 4, looking at some new device, instrument, plugin, something I haven't tried before or I'm relatively unfamiliar with, and just kind of using that as a springboard for new ideas. And so that's what we're doing today. I'll be doing, some episodes that are genre focused or subgenre focused, style focused. I was thinking about next time to do kind of, techno obviously, but kind of going back in time a little bit, and what, Christian and I used to do back when we were using mostly hardware to make our tracks, and, the type of drum grooves we were making. We did a lot of that kind of layered, drummy, kind of loopy, heavy stuff, and I thought it'd be fun to investigate that a little bit, and how would we approach it now? Of course, people are using hardware again, their DAW-less setups and stuff like that. Still working on the computer, but, kind of applying that, sample-based workflow that we had for our beats back then, and then trying to do some kind of rough and tough, maybe Smith and Selway style grooves. We'll see. And then 3rd episode, still working that out, maybe arranging focused or just sort of general production flow focused. And then the 4th episode, I plan to have a guest. And I believe Christian has agreed to be my first guest. So hopefully we'll be able to, talk together about our workflow, about our background, about our history, about how we work together, and then, just hang out and sort of connect the dots between, what we used to do and what we do now. And so I hope to continue with that sort of schedule, right? And before I dive in, I'll just also mention, I believe we're doing giveaways. Thomas is in the chat. He's going to be giving us info about that. And at the end of the episode today, we will announce one of the giveaway winners. So we'll see how that goes. I can't wait. Who else has joined in here? Robot Dharma, nice to see you again. And everybody's having a little bit of a conversation here. TWD Industries asks, what's everyone doing while watching today? So let's see. No, doesn't look like anybody answered that yet. I know what I'm doing. So let's get on and see what's happening in Ableton Live here. You know what? I'm going to get that chat out of the way. We don't need to see that right now. And all right, so today we're talking about a new device. You probably saw it in the title. Pendulate. It is the free version of a plugin released by Eventide. It's developed by Newfangled Audio. And it's a really interesting character-filled monosynth. And from, I checked out some YouTube videos and some demos to listen to what it sounds like. And it is definitely going to be a good techno instrument, right? This is going to be great for the kinds of sounds that I like to make. Let's take a look at it. All right, so here we go. And it's got some different controls than you usually see in a simple monosynth. Starting on the upper left, double pendulum. What's that? All right, so this is kind of a complex oscillator. It's, I believe, loosely based on like a Buchla type complex oscillator. And you basically got a couple of waveforms that are modulating each other in some sort of way. And it comes up with stuff that sounds similar to FM synthesis. Like you're creating weird overtones on top of sine waves, basically. So that's what's happening here. And the chaos is referring to the relationship between the oscillators, I think. And it's kind of emulating or using the math or something of like, when you have multiple pendulums swinging at different rates and the shapes that makes. And it's got some nice visuals. Each of the sections kind of shows you what's going on. And in the double pendulum section, the visual, it's a Lissajous oscilloscope, right? It's showing you the amplitude on an XY axis and making these cool shapes, I believe. All right, so that's that section. And then you have your wave folder, which is doing a kind of distortion. It's, it's basically you can change a sine wave to something more like a sawtooth wave or a square. And then the next section, you have this low pass gate. I guess it's kind of a combo of a low pass filter and a gate for the amplitude and the modulation of the cutoff. And then on the bottom, you've got some tuning controls, stereo imaging, legato. In the middle, you've got an assignable ADSR, and you've got an assignable LFO. So this is sort of semi-modular. You can route things where you want. All these little plus signs let you choose and drag to a modulator. And it sounds pretty cool. So, basically the idea with this episode is, I'll be honest, I know what's here now. I've looked at it, but this is really the first day I've ever done anything with it. So, a little bit earlier before the show, I started a sketch. And, it's similar to the way I've started things before when I'm working in this. I've talked about this in master classes in the past when I'll kind of limit my workflow to certain instruments for a certain type of sound. So I'm kind of in this way of working. I would say like when I was making tracks in the mid 90s and kind of getting into like sort of darker minimal stuff, that's kind of what I'm thinking of style wise and the limitations of the instruments and the instruments I was using back then. So, I've got a 909 loaded up with some distortion and reverb on it. I've got, and then now that's my drum pattern to start with. Really simple, just a kick drum and hi-hat, that's it. I put in kind of a sub 808 layer underneath that just to give it some more bottom. And then over here, I've got a Pendulate loaded up together with a Max for Live mono sequencer. Again, as we've seen before, like making these kind of repetitive, hypnotizing techno melodic grooves or bass lines quickly and easily with a step sequencer. And so, I've got that loaded up, and I literally just hit random a couple times on the pitch and played with the octave amount, and I set the length of my pattern to 7 out of 16, so it's not just playing this, it's kind of going in and out of sync with every bar, and it's creating sort of a semi-evolving feel. Definitely an old techno trick from, time immemorial. And then I've got a Pendulate after that. You've got some different skins you can change to make it look different. I found that useful when I'm using multiple instances of the same plugin. I can know which track I'm on because it's a different color. And then we're going to our init patch, and this is pretty much just a sine wave. All right, and so this is sort of the first thing I did when I loaded it up for the first time, is just figuring out what this does just by listening carefully to each parameter and playing around and tweaking them. All right, so I know also you can kind of hover over these and you'll get a little tip If you're not sure what it is, let your mouse hover over the parameter and it gives you an explanation. So this is the ratio of chaotic oscillator to non-chaotic oscillator. So we've got two sine waves. And we're just mixing between. 0 is just the low. They're tuned apart right now. The tuning is set here. Right now it's octaves. You've got an octave higher. You can kind of blend between those and you see the shape of the sound changing visually. And then let's try some different interval. We can tune the chaos oscillator up or down from the main or non-chaos oscillator. So we can go change the overtone, change the harmonic above that. All right, that sounds kind of cool. And I'm getting like a simple like ring mod or FM kind of effect here with an overtone over top of a fundamental lower frequency from the non-chaos oscillator. And then I changed the shape, and then crazy things start happening. And this is where the intermodulation between those oscillators start to happen. You can hear like it's not exactly transparent what's going on inside of this oscillator, but you can hear that when the shape is low, you more distinctly hear the difference in tuning between the chaos and the low oscillator, the non-chaos oscillator. But then as you go up, it starts to kind of smooth out. And you don't hear the ringy tones on top anymore. And then as I go higher and higher, it starts to get kind of crunchy and more detailed in the high frequencies and dirty. All right. We've got a sub 1 oscillator, which is an octave lower, and a sub 2 oscillator, which is a 2 octaves lower. Let's put the beat on and see how that works. I feel like I already have an arrangement for a minimal kind of dark driving techno track just with playing with that. All right, so we also have animate. What is that doing? Detuning. All right, that's pretty straightforward. So the frequencies are slightly moving apart, and you're going to create tuning and phase differences and beating between the two oscillators. Now, right away, I know this already. The stereo button, that's going to take the different oscillators and tune them apart in stereo. And we get a nice wide space happening now. And you hear sort of different overtones in the stereo image kind of shifting around. All right. So that's already, that's just the two sine waves modulating each other and making interesting overtones and different cool kind of textures, sort of ringy. And again, it's really reminding me of, and there is some similarity here to certain types of FM synthesis. Let's see what's going on. It looks like I just see a message from, I guess it's from Thomas, saying that the YouTube stream is not happening, which is unfortunate. Hopefully we are continuing to stream properly on the other platforms. So hop on over to Facebook or Twitch if you need to grab the stream back. And I will continue to move along here through my exploration of Pendulate. So let's take a look at the wave folder. I'm going to dial this back. So we're just back to straight up sine wave and see what the wave folder is doing. All right, so we have a drive. And this is kind of, you can think of this as like a saturator. You're distorting, you're clipping the waveform. And then the folds are going to give you different harmonics on top. So now we're more like a square wave. Push that a little farther and we're kind of getting a little bit sawtoothy. Well, sort of jagged sawtoothy sine thing, I don't know. And then we can change the symmetry and get some more different overtone relationships. Can bring the cutoff up to get a little more brightness out of it. So it's definitely, it's we've got like a, again, I keep talking about FM. We're having a similar effect. But I think, where this thing has strength and character is in its double pendulum chaos oscillator here. So let's go back and play with that. All right, so it's good, but let's rein this in a little bit. It's real full, and I want to go back to being a little more percussive and fitting with the groove a little bit better. So let's check out our low-pass gate and tighten this up a little bit. So that's our envelope controlling the frequency. Resonance, and then I can change the poles here. We're just becoming steeper cuts now with the filter. I've noticed that the ADSR, I think, mostly needs to be assigned to something. It doesn't appear that it is already assigned to amplitude by default, but I need to investigate that a little bit more. But let's try and get a little more precision in this sound, and I'm going to use that ADSR and assign it to something. So I'm going to try the chaos shape, so I can, because I know when I bring the chaos up, I can get some more dirt and grit and brightness in a sound when I boost it up a lot, but I don't want it to do it the whole time. So let's assign the ADSR output, and this envelope has 3 different types of outputs. It's the same controls but different shapes, or this one's ADSR, this one's just attack decay with no sustain, so it's always going all the way down. Let's just stick with this one, and then you have here your amounts. Now I'm not really hearing it. What's going on here? Let's all right, sometimes if you assign a parameter, you change a parameter and you don't hear a change, then it's because it's related to something else that's happening. There we go. So I wasn't hearing most of what the chaos was doing because it was all getting filtered out and changed by the wave filter and filtered out by the low pass filter. So now we've got it isolated. There we go. So that's what I was looking to do, is give it a little bit of a percussive, bright bite. You can hear it's real easy to lose it. It can get out of tune and kind of weird pretty quick depending on the tuning of the chaos oscillator and the ratio and the shape. If you're looking to do sort of a thicker, fuller, less sort of ringy kind of a tone, you can also try syncing the oscillators together. All right, I think I've got a pretty good start here with this bass line. Now, I already have another sound set up here where I took a different approach. And sorry, I'm just going to try to reset the chat here in case there's someone with any questions. Robot Dharma, just adding to my pile of Selway Techno notes. Oh, I'd love to see that compilation of notes. I'd be curious to see what you took out of it and how you organized it. That would be cool. Yeah, Tech Notes, TW Industries. Graph paper. Oh, same graph paper that you use graph paper for drum patterns. I've never been that organized I haven't ever put down on paper drum patterns like that, but that is a really great way to do it. Especially if you're working with hardware, I should think. And it looks like Max Wild has joined us. Max, you've been doing are you supposed to be doing a workshop right now? Anyway, yeah, this is I'm going to go ahead and take our chat break before I go further into the next sound here. And I want to remind everyone, just in case there are any questions, please throw them in the chat. Of course, we did have an issue with the YouTube not going, which is really weird. It still says waiting. But it looks like at least the chat's still working. So yes, again, if you have any questions about what I'm doing here with Pendulate and what's going on inside of this synth, throw them out there. Or any questions in general, whatever's burning in your mind and you just got to know and you think I might know, just hit me up with some questions, as always, in the chat. And I will also remind you again, for anyone out there who's a new viewer, of course, this is 343 TV, this series that we've been doing, kind of starting at the beginning of our COVID experience globally, where we just wanted to reach out and, share what we're doing and expand our horizons and make our community larger. And, each of the instructors at 343, most of us are doing streams. There's one every day, usually 1 o'clock. I'm switching over from doing Tuesdays to Saturday now, obviously, and I'll be continuing to do that for the foreseeable future. We've also got Mondays, Dull Trick. Is it still Tips and Tricks, I think? And Tuesdays is something new. Someone, Thomas, maybe someone in the chat want to remind me what's on Tuesdays. I think there's like a hybrid studio. There's a music theory class. Abe has his production Friday, so I got to memorize all these show titles now, don't I? Or at least be organized and write them down on a list and have it in front of me. So anyway, for those of you who have been following along since the beginning or have been regular visitors, thank you once again for being here. Really appreciate having you guys here hanging out with us while we do what we do. And again, I'll also remind everyone, we do have giveaways running, and there's supposed to be something in the chat at some point with a link for signing up, I believe. And then at the end of this episode, Thomas will let me know who the winner of the current giveaway is, and we will announce that live. So let's get back to the craziness that you see here in front of you. All right, so let's move on to this other instance of Pendulate I have here. And this one I wanted to go for something still percussive. I've got a kind of a percussive bass, but here I wanted to do something, a lot of times in techno, the way I think about, especially with this style, is that almost every sound is like percussion. So even if it's a bass or an effect or a lead or whatever, it all has to, it's all like drums. Like techno can just be like weird drum noises. And I'm not saying that it always sounds drummy. I'm just saying that the whole groove, all the different elements have to fit together like a tight drum groove. Every element. So, and a lot of times sounds are somewhere between a melodic sound and a percussive sound or a noisy sound or an effect sound, right? So that's what's sort of going on here. So like it's like a monotone, one note sort of lead element, you could think, for this type of techno. I need to dial back that bass sound. It's got too rough and grumbly. I want it to be cleaner. Right. And I mentioned this before, like when you bring the chaos shape up really high, that's where you start to get the kind of noisy stuff happening. So that's what's happening here is, what I hear there, it sounds like a filtered sawtooth wave or something. And I think most of that tone's coming from the wave folder. It's taking those sine waves and making it very much brighter. And then I'm just bringing the shape all the way up. And that's where I'm getting my dirty, noisy elements coming from. And then, again, we're driving it. We're doing the wave folder. It's adding a lot of overtones to it. The filter's not doing too much. It's just opened up and pretty bright. And there's a little bit of a shift to the sound if you listen over time. Gets a little less bright and a little fuller, then it goes back to being a little bit more noisy. And that's just this LFO modulating the symmetry. So it's shifting sort of the overtones being created by the wave folder. Oh, that's cool. It goes all the way up to 100 hertz. So we can take this LFO into the audio range, and that's yet another way to create more complexity, more overtones, more brightness. I'm going to go back to my bass and try to smooth it out a little bit. I think it's a little bit too crunched up in the wave folder. A little better. It'll take some more tweaking. Just my sub. 16th note closed hi-hat. All right. This is fun. Let's check in with the chat again real quick. Great. Looks like Thomas has got some of the upcoming episodes. Tetro Talks on Tuesday. That's one of them. And yes, finally, we have the giveaway link in the chat. Everybody make sure to check that and enter if you haven't already. And what is it that they're entering for anyway? I don't even know. What is it that we're pushing on these people? Now, right now I'm just listening and thinking where I want to go next with this. I do have another Pendulate open here. I played this. This is a slightly modified preset that I opened up earlier. And I had the idea of taking this kind of hypnotic groove and then maybe adding like a melodic bass, like a progression, and taking it into another direction. That always happens with me. I'll start with like an idea. And that idea in this case was based completely on what I was hearing coming out of this plugin I'm trying out for the first time. And, making the sound led me in a particular stylistic direction. And I've gotten to a certain point now where I need to think, do I keep it simple and tracky and just work on only modifying, like playing around with the sounds that I have? This is always a choice. This is like what I was a guest with Abe on his show yesterday, and I was talking about this, where, you kind of, when you're producing and I always find that I kind of like to follow how I feel in the moment, and sometimes that takes you away from your initial goals. So, and I'm sure if Christian's still here, he will agree that as a producer with a specific style in mind, you've got to like put your blinders on and set your limitations and stick to those and make choices that work within those limitations, so you get the result that you want more efficiently or more effectively. So that said, I still like to improvise and experiment and compose and explore and fool around and take me where my feeling, what I feel in the moment. So I'm going to continue with that in this case. I may change my mind later. Okay. Guess we should record that. All right. All right, I'm kind of playing really syncopated off beat, and that's actually, I don't know what beat I started on, but that's where I wanted it to start. Yeah. So let's look at this sound. So, this started as a preset. And that's, even though I could make most any sound that I set my mind to, I still like starting with presets sometimes, especially exploring a new synth. So any of you out there who are not totally comfortable with starting from zero, and you aren't totally confident about what all these things are doing, obviously starting with a preset can be a little more approachable. So this is what it sounded like before. Not that different, actually. But a different shape to it, for sure. This one's more sustained and more straight, and I had more of a bounce to it. So, that the first place I would look to change the shape is the envelope. And, the low-pass gate envelope, in this case. And bringing the frequency down, I can hear the range that envelope is working within. And then increasing the sustain. And this preset we're hearing this ADSR working. Now, what is that assigned to? Hovering over the pluses should show you whatever is assigned. You'll see a little line connecting, and I'm just going over each one. And I am not seeing anything that this envelope is routed to. So that's just slightly mysterious to me. Whereas starting from the init or the default, the init patch with nothing, just zero, just a sine wave, no modulation, no nothing, I didn't get a reaction out of the ADSR. Whereas here, this preset's loaded up and I'm getting a reaction out of this ADSR. It's modulating something, I assume amplitude. Anyway, I'm going to have to investigate that. And if anybody out there who has used this plugin knows or wants to find out while we're playing around, feel free to find out and explore that possibility and then share it in the chat. All right, so I'm just slightly changing the feel of this bass sound. And I think I wanted it to be a little less growly. That's better. A little less drive. It's a little smoother sounding with the animate detuning a little slowed down. Whoa. So that's not what we want. Although a little bit is good. It's getting that just slight wobble in the low notes, which I kind of like. Let's hear how that sounds. I like that. It's not grinding when it gets full and bright, but it's still got like just a little bit more power, a little more energy when I bring that filter frequency up. So that's definitely an easy arrangement, automation, performance move to do with this. So I'm already, playing around with the synth. I'm getting some ideas of what its, sweet spots are and what the possibilities are. It's monophonic. I'm not going to be using this synth to try to play big, pretty chords or anything, but the vibe it's given me, and that's sort of part of this experience that we're going through today is, trying out this new plugin and getting a feel for, what we like about it and what it would be good for. And, so far, and this is just with the little tiny bit of exploration I've done, I'm sure there's very much farther we can go for eventually, but I like it as, it's a monosynth, and that puts it in sort of a category of things like a mini Moog and a sequential Pro 1 and other sort of, subtractive synths that have multiple oscillators that you can layer up and sound really fat with have nice filters in them. And then something like the mini Moog has, you can do filter FM and you can do audio rate modulation and get some similar, and it has, you can overdrive it and you can give some similar sort of saturated, blown out, fat sound. So it can definitely do that. Like Pendulum sounds great for like character bass lines, right? That are, it's digital kind of, right? This isn't claiming to be like an analog sounding instrument. It's just what it is. It sounds like it, but it has a nice warmth to it. It doesn't ever get super, super bright. Actually, that's one thing I meant to mention about this sort of percussive lead note thing that I've got going on, is that I couldn't get it as bright as I wanted to within the synth. So the synth has a dark character to it. Even when it gets noisy and bright, it never gets really bright. So in order to get it as bright as I wanted, I ended up doing this crazy EQ curve to add bring up what highs were there and then to cut out some of the mids that were kind of making it sound warmer. And, here's what it sounds like by itself. Well, still sort of bright, right? But I wanted it more thin like that. So, if they had put in like a variable filter in here, if it wasn't just a low filter, if they also, like, it's kind of like low pass, band pass combined in a way. But if this, say, had a high pass or something like that, or that would be interesting, I think. And I don't know, I need to check and see if the big version of this that they have that's polyphonic has some other possibilities like that. So anyway, right. So again, back to sort of the character thing. It's definitely dark. It's good for bass. It's good for these strange, complex, weird overtone sort of manipulations. And it reminds me of FM, but in a way, it's more approachable than FM is typically, because it's easier to just get something quickly. FM is, so precision oriented, and it isn't always easy to get it to do exactly what you want. And you could emulate what this thing is doing with, say, like Operator or FM8 or whatever. And then also any synth that does audio rate modulation of frequency and cross mod between oscillators can get similar vibes happening. But I think I like instruments that are unique and approachable and not too hard to control. Like if you understand basic subtractive synthesis, you can get your head around this. I haven't fully explored all the modulation possibilities, but it looks simple, but you can, this envelope and the LFO and then the multiple outputs from those LFOs and envelopes, you can do a lot of tricky stuff. So I see the potential there. And again, it just contributes to the unique and interesting character of this synth. Let's check in with the chat again. Who is new? Let's see. Live Society. That's a new name to me. Welcome. Glad to have you. John H. Kingston III. Hey from Rockaway Park. Yes. Nice to see you. Or nice to see you in the chat. And Live Society says presets give you an idea of the capability of a synth when you start out. Absolutely. And I don't know. Let's do that. Now that you mention it, let's see what other sounds are in here. So I've got my... Let's simplify this so we can hear better. But I still want to audition these sounds in the context of music. And that you'll hear me say this over and over again. Like for me, like sound design and synthesis and in the context of music making is more fun and I think rewarding. And you learn a lot about how the synth works by starting with a musical idea and then applying the synth techniques. And vice versa. When you're like today, when you're exploring a new synth and you're not sure how it's going to sound and you start playing with it, and then you might get a musical idea from what the synth does or the preset. So let's load up another one and check out some of these presets. The default's bonkers already, if I remember. That's another thing that may seem obvious to some, but not to others that I should mention, is that when you're checking out presets, you should always test the range of the keyboard. What does it sound like high? What does it sound like low? I mean, even like in Ableton Live, which is, it's nice that they have all these, audio clips for the preset preview, but it doesn't tell you the whole story. It's just one note played one way. You don't really know how that preset sounds until you load it up and try it. So just a thought in terms of workflow. You may find more interesting sounds than you knew you had by, going beyond the preview if you're an Ableton Live user. So yes, back to... Now we've done a bass, we've done kind of a bright percussive lead sound with two different kinds of basses really. Let's see what else this guy can do. Let's try some of these effects. So these are going to be more extreme modulation usually. All right, that could be a lead as well as an effect, but the pitch mod in there is portamento. It's got a really slow rate for the portamento gliding between keys, and that reminds me about something that I also noticed in this plugin. That unless I've missed it, there's no pitch modulation of the oscillator in this. So if you want to do pitch bendy stuff, and I actually, where that came up when I was playing earlier, was on this guy. I was thinking about doing a bend to it and having it rise and fall. And I was like, maybe I could do the LFO and have it go up and down just slightly, like detuning up and down a little bit or more drastically. And I couldn't do it. So the only way to really do that is either going from note to note with portamento, but that's not going to work because I'm playing a 16th note kind of syncopated rhythm. So the only way to do it is just simple old MIDI pitch bend. So I've got my hand on the pitch control on my keyboard. I know it's a little silly sounding. It's just something I was playing around with earlier. So something to keep in mind. And also as a reminder that pitch modulation, you've got your pitch wheel. It's easy to, I don't know, I tend to forget about it unless I'm trying to play like a a bendy melody, but it is yet another modulation source that you can access in your MIDI clip. You could go in and live and go to your envelopes and choose MIDI control and choose pitch bend, and then this is where I could do that that kind of stuff I was just playing around with. So, all right, back to the presets. Uh-oh. That's still an issue in live, where you change the pitch bend and then it leaves it where you left it. And so you go back and play it and it's out of tune. So the quick fix is just put a breakpoint at 0 on that envelope and it'll play correctly. All right, sounding really thick now, isn't it? All right, that's cool. We're able, the LFO is syncable, right? We can have the tempo of this LFO follow a 16th note or an 8th note or a bar or 2 bars. That's great. All right, this one says wait for it. Let's see what it does. Okay, it starts getting wobbly and noisy. Fantastic. All right, we're obviously out of the effects now. We're into the plucked, so that's kind of similar to what was going on before, and that definitely has like a in the area of a Moog or other similar monosynth type of a vibe to it. So definitely good for that. That reminds me of really like SH-101 with a really fast LFO doing pulse width and pitch modulation. It's reminiscent of that little growl that you can get out of an LFO, a fast LFO modulation on an SH-101. So. All right, that was just a bunch of random notes and sort of, I don't know. But right away, that sound gave me an idea, sort of, it'd be good for a sort of a arpeggiated melody or, something like I might have done on an SH-101. So perfect example of finding a nice preset and having it inspire you to a musical idea based on, of course, also this groove and this progression I made with the bass line. And, let's hope that did live save it? There it is. I love that. I love being able to capture what you just played when you forget to record it. All right. Let's just quantize it and see how it works out. I think that worked out pretty well, but let's play with it a little bit. Customize our preset. Nice visual in the double pendulum section. Cleaner when I increase the shape. Sort of rougher sounding with the low percentage on the shape. You're getting some strange sort of, it sounds like not overtones, but undertones. There's like some lower frequencies happening there. And tiny changes are doing interesting things. This is a nice sound. A little more portamento. Put some effects on this. A little bit of EQ. I mean, throwing a good delay on something is always a good possibility. It's almost a little, at this point I feel like it's a lazy possibility because it almost always makes something sound cool. Right, so now I'm modulating the filter on the delay. Maybe it needs to be post. I don't absolutely love the sound of the reverb built into Live's Echo device, but it can be cool depending on the sound. Actually sounds nicer full, but then it's too long. Maybe I'll just bring it down way in the background. All right. I think we're doing pretty good here. I like this plugin. I think this was a good one to try out in public for the first time. I think I managed to come up with something. You know, it's just the start. It's a sketch. I might keep it and develop it. I might not. We'll see. Probably will. No sense in throwing away a potentially good thing. And I don't know. I also think it pays to, even if you're like not 100% on an idea, to see it through to completion if you can and just get through it. That's always another production. I'm stealing Abe's concept, production mindset. But we were just talking about it yesterday, so it's fresh in my mind. And let's check back into the chat real quick. Looks like the giveaway, this is a really nice giveaway. If you're thinking about maybe joining our community at a deeper level, and, you know, part of the reason we're here is to promote and spread the word about our courses at 343 Lab, both online and in person. We have a school in New York, and then now we have also established a location in Berlin. Go to 343labs.com to check out what we have available, what courses are coming up. I just recently started a Ableton Live intermediate, I guess, like level 2 kind of Ableton Live course last week. And I'm starting synthesis and sound design for producers, I believe, this week. And, you know, there's still time to sign up if you're interested. But yeah, go to 343labs.com and check out what we have available, both online and, you know, the different courses we have. And then to a limited extent, what we have available in New York, in person, and what we've got going on in Berlin. So the gift today, the giveaway today, is a $300 voucher to apply towards sign up for a course at 343 Labs. So let me know, Thomas, as soon as we are ready to announce the winner. I know we're almost out of time. We got 4 minutes. Let me just stay with the chat here and see what's going on with everybody. Let's see. We've got, oh, Begonia and Mike have joined. Nice to have you here again. Actually, Mike, send me a text. I didn't get back to you yesterday. And Robot Dharma's waving here. Yes, I'm waving right back at you. Hi. So Anyway, I guess we could start to wrap up a little bit. And again, just remind you that this is Selway Techno Saturdays. And today we were looking at Pendulate. And, you know, in a few weeks from now, I'll do this format again where I find a plugin, a synth, an effect, maybe even hardware if something new comes my way. We'll see. And the idea is to, you know, explore the possibilities and, you know, how I might approach getting to know a new instrument, a new device, and sort of the process and what creative ideas come from that. And in terms of software, I mean, I'm willing to look at anything, but I do also want to kind of lean towards free and inexpensive plugins and hardware, so it's more accessible. And especially like the free plugins like this it's brilliant that such a cool, interesting, good sounding plugin is free. So yeah, there's a lot more stuff out there like that we can explore. And then I mentioned next week we're going to get into some genre specific stuff, and I think we're going to start with sort of the old school Smith and Selway style production, and hopefully Christian can come back and hang out for that. So I'm still waiting to hear who the winner is for today's giveaway of a $300 voucher to 343 Labs, which, according to 343 Labs, patting itself on the back, the coolest music school in the world. Well, you know what? That might be true. I mean, I'm here. So any last questions anybody want to throw my way before we wrap things up and announce the winner and say goodbye? Now's your chance. And what I'm going to do right now, here it is. Congratulations to Kenneth Bruton. You have won. You are the winner of the $300 voucher to sign up with 343 Labs. It's a really good discount, let me tell you. So hopefully you're already thinking about signing up, and this is going to be the kicker for you to commit and join our music education community. So, all right, that's it for today. Thanks so much for joining me. Next episode we have is on Monday from Claire Dultrick, Tips and Tricks, and definitely come and check her out. She's very talented. Like, she's really good with melody and kind of tying together sort of like a more pop mindset with technology and music production. And I really appreciate her skills as well. So please do check out what she's doing on Monday if that is your cup of tea. And that's it for now. See you next week. Thanks, everyone.